getting ready here to start our meeting. Could you please find a place that looks like we should probably take a larger room? I apologize for that. If there's any open seats, I'd appreciate sliding into those if you can. But this is the regular February 27th, 2023 meeting of the Porter County Board of Commissioners. So we will stick to our normal protocols as we have our commissioners meeting. So if you all don't mind, we'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very quickly, I'm going to ask the people sitting behind the dais here to introduce themselves and start at this end of the table with NextEra.
Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Johnson, Project Director for NextEra Energy Resources. I'm Attorney Scott McClure, the County Attorney.
Laura Blaine, Porter County Commissioner.
We can't hear you.
Stand up! Laura Blaine, Porter County Commissioner.
We need to get more people in.
Jim Biggs, Porter County Commissioner and President of the Porter County Board of Commissioners.
Board Records, Porter County Commissioner.
Bob Thompson, Director of Development and Stormwater Management for Porter County. My name is Stu Summers. I'm a consultant to Porter County.
Okay, I think I need to make something very clear to all of you, and that is, this meeting was put together for you. It wasn't put together for the Board of Commissioners so much, or certainly NextEra. We want to hear from you. That's very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start all this out with a 20-minute presentation by NextEra, and then we're going to open it up for question and answers because we want to hear from you. This issue affects you down in the Morgan Township area. I live in Chesterton, so I want to hear from you. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. We will be timing those. And Melanie she'll keep a stopwatch on it. She's raised children, so she's nobody to mess with. So I guess we'll start, we can start with you all down at the end there. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go.
Sorry.
All right, good evening everybody. I'm Matthew Johnson, Project Director for NextEra Energy Resources. Tonight I want to unpack the proposed Malden Solar project. This project would utilize less than 1% of the farmland in Porter County, deliver $35 million in tax revenue, and about 250 construction jobs. As soon as I get the clicker. There we go. Our company and our values. It's important to me, it's important to our company. NextEra is built on 3 pillars that creates our ethos. We're committed to excellence, we do the right thing, and we treat people with respect. This isn't just something that you see in the halls of headquarters, but it truly drives every business meeting, every landowner interaction, and our participation at any community event. We've been proud to be hosting events and participating in events in Porter County for the last year and a half. We're at about 20 total. Some of those relationships I want to show here. The Valparaiso Chamber of Commerce, Rex and his team are second to none. They've been instrumental in helping us to understand ways to drive the investment if this project gets approved and we move forward. The $250 million or so that it would cost to build this project, how can we maximize that money for the local community? What are the ripple effects? What are the ways that we can really drive that towards the local community here? Next is the Sunshine Center. So this is a group of servant leaders over at Heartland Church that are putting together a mixed-use facility. It's really incredible what they're doing and looking out for folks. And we're proud to be a sponsor to try to get the Sunshine Center off the ground right over Morgan Township. The last one would be our work with Ivy Tech. So Ivy Tech is filling a need. There is a renewable energy program at Ivy Tech. It's really, state of the art in the way that they're training students for energy jobs now. Like I said, we're proud to be a part of it. We've donated 2 microgrid trainers, also some scholarship donations that really try to help funnel talent to fill jobs here in Indiana for these renewable energy programs. A little bit about our company. We're not some fly-by-night company. We have a 90-year track record. We have about $170 billion market cap, which means that we say what we mean and we mean what we say. When we make agreements, we live them out. We're made up of 2 companies. Florida Power and Light, one of the largest utilities in the United States, and NextEra Energy Resources. Operations in about 38 states, with solar projects in about 30. NextEra Energy Resources is technically where I work, and we have a number of different sites around Indiana. I'll highlight some of that investment here. So what our current CapEx, capital investment, looks like for Indiana is about $750 million, $2.5 million paid in property taxes, $3.5 in annual payroll, and $7.7 paid to our landowners. That's no small sums. Those are substantial investments into local communities. Forgive the slide, some of this didn't turn out exactly, but what I want you to take away is Purdue University recently did an economic impact study. And what they did was they looked at the short term, the construction year, and the long term, the operation year benefits of a project. There's 8 counties that we're working in right now. Of that $2.2 billion, we're looking at about 1.7 of economic output. The 2 numbers I want you to focus on, though, would be the $350 million in estimated labor income. That's real money going to real workers to real kitchen tables. 5,600 construction jobs to build these 8 projects. A little bit about the project overall. 200 megawatt solar facility. If you don't speak megawatt, what that means is that the spring and the fall, when it's a little bit more seasonal, we can power more homes than we could in the winter and the summer when there's a higher electricity demand. The benefits to Porter County: $35 million at least in tax revenue. So we're talking about increased assessed valuation. So if the county budget stays the same, the tax rate drops. If the county budget goes up, the tax rate would stay the same then. Significant. $250 million in capital investment and the increased assessed value, as I just described. Roughly 250 construction jobs. And again, the money in these jobs help drive to local goods and services. I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook about air, water, soil pollution. I'll dive into that specifically. But our project has no air, water, or soil pollution. We don't emit anything. We're not putting anything in the groundwater. We're not putting anything in the soil except for steel. Payments to landowners. Porter County has an ordinance. It's a detailed and thorough ordinance. We're working through that. We're using that as our Bible for this project to ensure that we meet every criteria that we need to. But the payments to landowners is important. The landowners have an opportunity to provide for their family, for generational planning, and to keep a farm in the family. Last, one of the more important parts of the project, to be honest, is decommissioning the project after its useful life. The project we're looking at here is about 20 years in total length. We're going to place a bond with the county and have it re-examined every 5 years by an independent engineer. The purpose of doing this is to ensure that should NextEra go pause up, which I don't think we will, given our financial track record in the years that we've been in business, or there's some crazy law that comes up from D.C., which happens from time to time, that would permit this or invalidate the project, there will be money set aside to ensure that the taxpayer or the landowner would never be burdened with the project. We would return the land to as good or better condition than we found it. A little bit more about some of the questions, some of the concerns I've seen. It's not lost on me, so I want to go right on with it. I said earlier, less than 1% of the farmland in Porter County. Here's what I mean. 1,600 acres have been signed up. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to use all 1,607 acres. We have to have exclusions for the landowners, for wildlife, for wetlands, for habitats, for things we can't build on, for things we can't build under, that sort of thing. So our project boundary totals, it's actually about 968 acres, but let's say 1,000 acres. Less than 1% of the farmland in Porter County. Of that 1,000 acres, and I don't mean to be too technical here, but we use what's called a ground coverage ratio. It's typically about 37.5%. I'm estimating upwards a little bit just to manage expectations and say it's at 40. 400 acres hosting panels. That means 400 acres would actually have panels on it. Not 2,000, not 2,200, not 13,000. This is a one-phase project. 1,600 acres signed up. 1,000 acres in the project fence. 400 acres with panels over it. Are the panels safe? Seen a lot of questions about that. We only use a solid state material. I can't speak to other developers what they may or may not use. Our panels only use polysilicon, solid state material. There's no heating of liquid or anything like that. Nothing can be leached into the groundwater. Nothing would be leaking. It's solid state material. Another one I get, why Porter County? We have an increased customer demand for renewables across the nation right now. Not lost on Indiana either. And technological advances really help pave the way there. A little bit more about why we're looking at Porter County. And I want to break it down a little bit. Customer demand. Every utility is looking for a no fuel cost resource right now. Sunlight's free. You don't have to pay anything. It's not the same with gas, coal, or anything else. I'm not knocking those other resources. NextEra is an all-of-the-above company. We have gas, we have nuclear, we have wind, solar storage, and hydrogen. In this area, some of the utilities, Duke, AES, NIPSCO, this project is not contracted yet. They're looking for something to add to their, what we call an integrated resource plan. It's a plan that they're required to show Indianapolis every 3 years that demonstrates that they're thinking about sustainability, ratepayers, so on and so forth. So renewable projects are very valuable for utilities right now. It broadens their portfolio and shows that they have more than one resource. Interconnection capacity. There's a transmission line that runs right through the heart of the project. That's what we plan to tie into. That's key. Is it a good resource? Well, new technology is allowing us to really get the most out of our investment and what we'd be looking at here in Porter County. A little bit more about that in some coming slides, but mostly bifacial modules, meaning we have the absorbent material on both sides, and I'll show you exactly what I mean, but also tracking panels that follow the sun throughout the day. Participative landowners. Again, we have landowners that have really thought through these decisions. Some have taken almost 2 years to sign their agreements. They've asked difficult questions. They've considered this for their family. They're following the Porter County ordinance, and we're working with them to ensure that all concerns are addressed. In some cases, we've worked with neighboring landowners that aren't part of the project to ensure that we can meet their needs as well. We're happy to do that where we can. Ideal land. It really takes all of these components, plus land that we can look at that would either be flat, minimal grading, that sort of thing, drained properly, other components that would come with engineering a 1,000-acre site. So I touched on the monofacial, bifacial panels a little bit. Here's exactly what I mean. So you can see on the monofacial panel, you'd have sunlight that would hit one part. On a bifacial panel, you can actually get radiation off the sunlight off the ground as well. So what that means is if it's snowing, we can still harvest sunlight. I said earlier that we don't have any liquid. Here's what I mean. We have an N-type and a P-type semiconductor. Suffice to say, if you're not into physics and chemistry, we layer the semiconductors on top of each other. When the sunlight hits these semiconductors, that's what we use to create a current. That's collected through our DC cabling, sent to an inverter, changes to AC current, and that's what goes on the T&D system, transmission distribution system around your house or business. A little bit more about panel composition, what that looks like. Forgive me, I thought the slide would show up a little bit better here. So what you have is the junction box and then the back sheet. Then you have a layer of encapsulant, then the solar cells, the wafers, the solid state material I'm talking about. Another layer of encapsulant, tempered safety glass, and electric windshield, right? And then an aluminum frame. So we stand behind a Tier 1 panel for a number of safety reasons. Also suffice to say that if we're the #1 renewable energy developer in the world, we can't have a bad environmental record. We're not going to have things leaching into the ground, okay? A little bit more about our civil light approach for construction and engineering and what that looks like. So the top left picture is a pile. So we've done geotechnical testing along with a series of other tests to examine the ground and what that takes to construct the project properly. So with this pile, what we have is we look at tensile strength, we look at depth, we look at that sort of thing, because that steel pile is the only thing going in the ground. Then we arrange these in a lattice structure and place the panels on them. A little bit about the weather. We had a weather event today. So we designed these over 30 different states. We see a range of weather events. For instance, we just had a hurricane in Florida, Hurricane Ian. I'm from Noblesville. I've been through a tornado. I know how long they last. I've never seen a 150-mile-an-hour tornado that lasted 8 to 10 hours sustained wind in one area. Babcock Ranch is a facility that we have down in Florida that went through that. It provided power through the storm with minimal damage. Additionally, let's say we do have a weather event and Molden Solar is constructed. We monitor all of our assets in real time, 24/7, 365. All of our gas, nuclear, wind, solar, storage, hydrogen, all those assets in real time. So if something happens, we can disarm the asset and send somebody out the next day or whenever it's safe. Replace it, repair it, whatever we need to do. That's unique to NextEra. I can't speak for other developers. But we're confident with our continuous improvement and our engineering prowess that we can build an array that will withstand any Indian weather event. A little bit about environmental and community benefits. I see this on Facebook too. So the top left, I got another picture that'll zoom in on this, but we go through a lot of different studies. And we have been over the last year and a half. Well, I've been doing community engagement, looking through this ordinance and trying to work with the county team to ensure that we can tailor this project in a way that would meet their needs, and that's their decision. But as we're trying to do that, our environmental team and our engineers have been working diligently. We have to get things permitted at the federal, the state, and the local level. If anyone's built anything in here, it's no easy task. What you see here is that we carve out wetland features and tree lines. We arrange the panels in a way that works with the natural features. Someone has a phone call. It's all good. Pollinator-friendly plantings. We had that in here, but suffice to say, as I said earlier, we will use the Porter County ordinance, lock, stock, and barrel to ensure that we have whatever seed mixes and anything that we receive. There's that picture zoomed in a little bit more for folks. I know I wish we had more room here so folks could see it better. But again, a civil light approach. We reduce the herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, fertilizers, anything like that. Ground gets a chance to rest. Some of the studies that we look at, desktop, so field work and desktop work goes into our assessments. We look at all of the impacts on birds, bats, bees, everything else that you can think of. Those are all part of the permitting process federally and at the state level. Some of our landowners are excited. This project and others in Indiana, they believe they're going to have the best farmland in the county when the project is decommissioned. Again, only organic growth. Seed mix is selected by the county from experts who know what works best here. Sunshine and rain. And one of the most common questions I get, what's it look like? I've never seen a solar cell. So, a couple things I want to note here. This is a rendering from a nearby project in northern Indiana. It's taken from a roadway. You see the road at the bottom. About 150 feet. We can put the trees at the fence line. We can put the trees at the roadway. It's going to be up to the landowner. It's going to be up to the county. An agreement will work on it with them. So you're one. And we do this for a couple of reasons. There's safety, but there's also viewshed. Some people like it, some people don't. I understand. Year 5, you hardly know what's behind those. We will work with the county to ensure that we have the proper screening wherever it's needed. Most of this array, well, all the array is in Ag 1. Most of this array, there's not a home nearby. For the areas that are, I've met with 3 landowners, I've walked the property lines, had to meet with more folks. We're going to do what we can to screen as best we can. There's a lot of folks here. I understand there's some concerns. I hope tonight I was able to address as many as possible. If I didn't, I want to answer questions. If I can't answer the question, I will follow up. You got my commitment, and I'll get that to the commissioners. That way it can be shared with the community. With that, I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the hospitality that I've seen in Porter County over the last year and a half, and I'm grateful for the chance to present the Malden Solar Project. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get to the question and answer section of this. What we're going to do is Commissioner Riggins is going to read out 2 names, and one of you pick this side, and one of you pick that side. So, and we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, can we have Harvey Nix and Jim Finner on deck on this side, and Jeffrey Vallis and Colton Flanagan on this mic over here? We'll have Harvey go first.
We'd also appreciate if you state your name, and you don't have to state your home house address, but the community you live in.
All right, I've just got a couple questions I wrote down here. This first one is...
Harvey, you got to state your name.
All right, Harvey Nick.
All right.
And what town do you live in, Harvey?
What's that?
What town do you live
In
in?
Couch.
Thank you.
So I'm not affiliated with any of this. I'm just a bystander, let's say. This question goes to Mr. Thompson, since I see him there. You're not on the hot sheet, Bob. If this ground was once prime farmland, as we at the Soil Conservation and that labeled it about 30-some years ago, and now it's going to be solar panels, so the prime farmland, is that now gone? And it becomes what? Commercial or industrial? Could be industrial. But what happens to the tax base? Mr. Johnson said they pick up a bunch of money and some stuff, but does this change the tax base, which would be coming into the county? Does it, or does the person that owned the property, does their tax rate go up?
Can we have Stu Summers answer the tax rate question?
Okay.
Because he actually explained that to me in great,
All right.
he had a great explanation.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so the assessed value of the property will change. It's currently zoned agricultural.
Right.
It will be reassessed as what's called utility property.
Okay.
So the assessed value will go way up.
Okay.
And as Mr. Johnson said, whenever that happens, whether it's a solar system or a new Chrysler plant, when the assessed value goes up, 2 things could happen. 1, tax rates could go down, or 2, local revenue can go up. Schools, township,
Okay.
library, airport, county, what have you. Typically, in other counties in Indiana, it's been a blend. Rates have gone down a little bit, and revenues have gone up a little bit.
Okay. I'm not going to burn too much time here. One more question here. I've got to get away.
We're only going to give you 3 minutes, Harvey.
Okay. I've already used it up.
Almost.
Okay. All right.
Focus, Harvey.
Let's see. Okay, we got that land assessment commercial. All right. Well, I guess that's about time because I can't tell the truth.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, we've got, Bob, did you want to answer his question?
This is all in A1 general agricultural zone property. From the soil conservation service maps that we used with our land use study, the real prime farmland for Porter County is over on the east of 49. It runs from the airport down to about State Road 8. So it's east of 49. However, this is still good farmland rated within the Natural Resource Conservation or the SCS soil survey. So, I mean, it is still good farmland. And yes, they are proposing to put it on farmland. That's where they have their leases from, or from parcel owners that own farmland.
All right, thank you, Bob.
But one more thing, the property would remain zone A1 even through this project. It would not change the underlying zoning of the property or cause a change in zoning surrounding this property if it were to be approved.
Thanks, Scott.
Jim?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Jim Finn, and I'm with a group called Hoosiers for Renewables.
And where do you live, sir?
I'm the executive director of that group, and I live in Granger, Indiana.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a certified economic developer and have been in leadership roles in county, regional, utility, and statewide economic development organizations. Hoosiers for Renewables is an Indiana statewide organization that provides education while promoting and celebrating renewable energy development and opportunities that provide for healthy communities and healthy economies, specifically considering landowner rights, economic impact, and clean energy delivery. You are all to be commended in the formation of a solar ordinance that you already have in place. Within it, you have established a reasonably balanced large-scale solar development ordinance to allow for any solar energy development project moving forward must conform to the process outlined within it. That is responsible government. Thank you for that. On to landowner rights. Let's allow farms to be farms. Farms are businesses, and renewable development projects simply provide farmers another crop to produce, in this case, solar energy. From an aggregate perspective, there is minimal farmland that is impacted with these projects. It offers another alternative to crop rotation, generating income to the landowner, and after the term of that contract with the developer, will restore that in the decommissioning process that was explained earlier. This is also, and this is a key point, provides an opportunity to sustain the family farm, where there may not be future opportunities for generational families to keep it. In this case, this preserves their ownership rights as farmers. I'm not going to go through the economic impacts. You've already heard that. $30 million plus in terms of tax revenue injected, jobs, $250.
Three minutes.
May I finish, please?
40 seconds.
Okay. I will not go on that because obviously they created a row. Companies in Porter County focus on sustainable goals such as ArcelorMittal, U.S. Steel, and Pratt Industries all have sustainable goals to reach, and that's reducing their carbon footprint.
Okay. And could you
Well, I
just say-
paused for a minute. May I have just like...
Second. We're better.
Hey, 3 minutes.
Thank you for your time.
Three minutes.
Okay, on deck we have Jim Clarita over here and Paul Schul or Church over here, and then we will let Jeffrey speak.
Commissioners, my name is Jeffrey Ballas. I live in Crown Point, Indiana. I represent Local 150 as a business representative for over 16 years. I represent about 4,500 operating engineers in Northwest Indiana, between myself and several other agents that cover this ground. Local 150 has a working relationship with Nextera. When the man says they do what they say they're going to do, they do. They've treated employees with respect. This isn't another contract like we have with Southwest that's doing a solar field down in Mammoth, where they're bringing brings workers in from all over the country, from Louisiana, Mississippi, and paying wages and benefits that are far less than working conditions in Northwest Indiana. Local 150 has an agreement, verbal agreement, with NextEra that all this work will be done with local work, local employees, paying the area standards and benefits for Northwest Indiana. To this date, we've done many projects with NextEra. We've never had agreements. They've always done what they said they were going to do. Speak up! We've never had a problem with NextEra Energy, not once. So they've always done what they said they were going to do. So that's Local 150 is in support of this project, along with a lot of the other labor unions as well. Just wanted to be here tonight, just to let you guys know.
What's the question? Where do you live? Hey, Paul, look, we're not going to get through tonight if we do this, okay? I demand that everybody in here show some respect. And we're going to do that, or I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to allow you to say whatever you like to say in that 3-minute span. And anybody that interrupts you, I'm going to cut them off. We all have to respect that. We're better than that. So let's get through this. I really want to hear what all of you have to say. We can't do that if I keep interrupting and have to, So, next, let's go, please.
My name is Wolf Flanagan from Portage, Indiana. I'm an apprentice with Local 150. This project gives me an opportunity to learn on the job, make my benefits, make my wages, and continue my workforce development. Mammoth Solar Project in Southwest did not do that, and it did not contribute to workforce development in this area or the state. Thank you.
On deck over here, we have Jim Clarita and, Elena Schul and Christine Brady. Apologize. And Jim. You're up. Yes. Sorry.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. As you said, my name is Jim Clarita. I am a lifelong Porter County resident. I also come to you tonight as business manager of IBEW Local 531. We currently represent hundreds of members who live and work here in Porter County. I'd like to speak tonight in support of this project and with first-hand experience of working in collaboration with NextEra on projects just like this. Local 531 stands in support of this project, and as leaders in the renewable industry, specifically solar, we have hundreds of members who work on projects just like this. Our organization is dedicated to recruiting and training local residents to perform this type of work as we transition into the renewable energy. We recruit locally, and our training is free to our members. The transition into renewable energy has allowed organizations such as ours to expand our reach into the community. We can now offer new careers to folks who otherwise would never have an opportunity to work in the electrical industry. The more people we can recruit, train, and have earning good wages and benefits makes our local community stronger, puts more of our local residents to work. I think we can all agree that that's a good thing. A perfect example of this is the Dunsbridge Solar Project in Wheatfield, which is also a NextEra project and is a similar size to the Mullen Solar Project. In order to meet the manpower needs of this project, which peaked around 250 people, Local 531 recruited and trained almost 200 new people specifically for this project. Almost all of these new positions created came from local Northwest Indiana residents. Anyone living in the local area had an opportunity to work on this project if they wanted, given they had transportation, were 18 years of age, and could pass a drug test. We partnered with Ivy Tech, NAACP, all the local high schools, and Work One to make sure that our message of we're hiring was on prominent display. We made it very well known here locally that if you wanted a career in the renewable industry, IBEW was here to put you to work. These new members are now earning good union wages and good union benefits. They've also been taught the skills to perform this work and will be able to take these skills from one job to the next. With so many solar projects scheduled not just in our area, but statewide, these are sustainable careers for anyone wishing to work in the renewable industry. It's our hopes that once these individuals finish up the Dunsbridge and Wheatfield, they can then work on the Mullen Solar Project, thus keeping local residents employed. I can also speak on the Great Lakes that NextEra went through to try to be a good neighbor to the community. As workers on this project, we had to make sure that we were very mindful of the local residents. We did our absolute best to keep traffic to a minimum on the various county roads as to not impede traffic with our equipment and our work vehicles. We also did our best to keep as much mud and dirt off the roads so the local residents did not have to drive their nice personal vehicles through our mess. far as visually, this is one of the cleanest construction sites I've ever witnessed. I don't know if you can imagine how much garbage can come off a project like this, but there were 6 to 8 full dumpsters worth of garbage that was hauled away every single day. This was garbage that wasn't blowing around the fields, blowing into neighbors' yards, or just creating an overall eyesore to anyone driving by or living close enough to see it out their front windows. Again, this is something NextEra made very clear at the beginning, was steadfast even the present day. Your time's up.
Jim, could you tell us what part of Porter County you live in?
I live in Boone Grove.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, my name is Paul Shook, I'm a resident of Morgan Township. I found out literally today, contrary to what they said, I think I may have flooded. Maybe even be surrounded by properties that are being involved. I was never contacted by NextEra Energy. Okay? So I do have a couple questions and more preference from a couple angles. First off, it's just a U.S. taxpayer. As a U.S. taxpayer, first off, would NextEra Energy taken on this project if it had not been subsidized by the government in the recent infrastructure projects? Yes or no?
We were before it.
Okay, yes. So, okay. Granted, there's subsidies for agriculture, but this is benefiting your company directly. It's a publicly traded company. Is that correct? True. Okay, good. Next off, this is kind of sounds like a build it and they will come project. You haven't contracted to a final customer yet?
Open for contract.
Open for contract. Okay, is this going to go to anybody as Porter County citizen or Indiana resident from the power that's produced from this panel?
Think about it like an irrigation system.
Okay.
You put water in, you may not know which spigot's going to go out of your farm.
Okay. Are there any benefits to Indiana citizens, or is this going to be shipped wholesale power out of the state?
You can't ship power wholesale like that. It would be like water going through a spigot.
Okay.
You're going to
never anticipate in contracts putting any. I have 3 minutes. I got to do this quick. All right. You have battery storage that's going to be put on the premises at any time. Okay. So this has to be sold at spot rates out into the market?
No, sir. Incorrect.
You have contracted rates. For no takers and customers yet.
It would either be a power purchase agreement or a bill transfer agreement where we would operate and manage the site. That's
Is
what
this
we
in
do
the
Indiana.
PJM interconnection system?
No, sir. It's in my zone 6.
Okay, so it won't be used as utilization power for those 100-degree days necessarily that need to go ahead and be used like fossil fuel power does?
I don't see why it wouldn't.
Okay.
The generating electricity will be put on the grid.
All right. Are you going to float a municipal bond, public-private project, so you have escrow? So if this becomes an albatross after 6 years with new technology, new legislation?
No.
You have enough escrow that it has to decommission earlier than the 25-year lease period?
We have financing security.
Okay. Last but not least, I live right next to this. You have to go DC to AC.
Correct.
60 hertz. What's that sound like across 1,100 acres?
It'll be about a refrigerator hum.
Well, that's all. I'll put monitoring equipment on my property and try to hold it. Okay, and your name again is what?
Matthew Johnson.
Matthew Johnson. Okay. Finally, are you going to put motorized systems on these panels so they follow the arc of the sun during the day?
Yes, sir. I said that during the presentation.
Okay, I just want to have that repeated. So, you're going to use a motorized system using what? DC power, geared systems to go ahead and move panels back and forth?
Or the overbuild.
What's that sound like and what's the acoustic level?
It would still be at about a refrigerator hum 50 decibels.
You have studies that prove that? That's
We do, yes.
decibels for each
Yep, and I'll be happy to provide this to the county.
Okay. How come I was never contacted?
You were. We sent certified mail to everybody within 500 feet of the project boundary.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I was in that one.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
If Connie Heflin and Barb Patterson could please step behind Elena. And we'll go Elena and then Christine. You're Elena and then we'll go Christine. Okay.
Hi, I'm a Morgan resident. And my question is about the recycling process. You know, we hear a lot about this. The problem is technology with solar panels is moving very quickly. So when you say 30 years out, people may decide with the upgrades that it might be more efficient to get a new panel before that time. So what happens to all these old panels? In some areas, they are being classified as hazardous waste because they have cadmium and lead in them. I've just heard tonight that this power may be shipped to Ohio. Will Ohio be recycling? Will they be in charge? Will we be on the hook for all this recycling? Also, it costs costs about $20 to $30 to recycle one panel. However, sending that to a landfill would cost $1 to $2. So I'm figuring, and this is according to the Harvard Business Review, I'm figuring the companies are gonna wanna go with the $1 to $2, call me crazy. So we're putting an estimated 78 million tons by the year 2050, and that's not even including the upgrades. That sounds like a lot of stuff in our landfill.
I appreciate the questions. Let me go through real quick what you're talking about. I've never heard the Ohio piece. As I said earlier, the power will go on the grid, they'll follow the path of least resistance. They'll hit Porter County home well before it hits anybody in Ohio. So just
what about Illinois?
Or Illinois.
Worse. Go ahead.
I'm just telling you how MISO, the RTO, the regional transmission operator, will regulate the power. And that's how it works. The piece about recycling. Our panels are rated, again, a Tier 1 panel, solid state material, for 35 years. This project, as I said earlier, would be for 20 years. What we can do is recycle 95% of the site, glass, steel, and aluminum. Everybody knows those are pretty recyclable. The wafers that aren't can be repurposed and repowered. We still have 15 years of usable life. So what we would do is utilize technologies that we have that are proprietary for NextEra, and we would repurpose those panels as much as we can. So the landfill piece, that's great that you have that, but that's not how we do business. And again, to distinguish ourselves from anybody else, the other 13,000 acre site, or others, I'm just telling you, when we decommission a site, we will be recycling that. There's money placed in a decommissioning bond to do so.
Where is this coming? Where are the panels?
It'll be with the county. The decommissioning bond will be with the county.
So in Porter County?
Yes.
Okay. So our landfill.
The decommissioning bond will be with Porter County. Yes.
Okay. So we'll have the decommissioned land solar panels in our county.
You'll have the decommissioning bond in the plan in place with the county. That's part of the ordinance. We'll have that in place. We will recycle the panels, and as far as which site or location.
Even with the technology rolling as fast as it does, you'll be able to recycle.
Next, please.
On deck, we have William Hill and Kel Romaneshki.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm a little nervous.
There's no need to be nervous.
And thank you to everybody that will be patient with me. My name is Christine Brady. I live in Morgan Township. I moved out here from Merrillville. I wanted a university and I wanted farmland. As a child, I grew up in California with orchards and strawberry fields and flower fields. I wanted that same feeling of being home where I was raised. And another reason I left Merrillville was they were selling off their land. And business was going in, homes were going in. And they were the fields I used to go in and pick my vegetables with my daughter. She started when she was 1.5 years old going out there. She's now a vegetarian, and I'm pleased with that. But my problem with loaning our land out, our farmland, to electricity that's being almost pushed on us through our government, that we're too soon doing it. We're just finding our way, but you're taking our farmland from us. You say 1% of the farmland in Indiana? Well, take Africa. Take 1% of those people in Africa who are dying because they don't have food to eat. And it seems to me that if the farmers are struggling in our state is responsible to help them, to help continue growing food for the world. Otherwise, we're going to be all starving because our land will be wasted. Our homes will destroy the land. Our businesses that are being built will destroy the land. I understand we need electricity, but there are other ways that are not destroying our farmland. And the more we give it out for solar or anything else. I would say cattle farms. I don't want my land to go to that because there's too many issues with the cattle farms. But taking our land doesn't make sense to me, to the farmers. I hear them saying they are struggling. I hear no children saying, I want to be a farmer when I grow up. I see a neighbor whose children belong to the Future Farmers of America, but they're dealing with the animals, but they're not dealing with how to be a farmer on the land. And
Thank you.
Sir, if I can respond.
You did it.
Thank you.
You did it. You did a great job.
Just 2 points. I appreciate your comments, and thank you for being very clear about that. These are private agreements with landowners. We're not taking anything from them. These are offers that would help sustain whether it's diverse income streams for the families or to keep a farm and a family. So it's a different perspective. I sympathize where you're coming from. I understand what you're talking about. The other piece on food, according to Indiana Ag Today, in Indiana in 2022, 47% of Indiana's corn went to ethanol. So as far as the food argument goes, it's just not the case here in Indiana. So I appreciate the comments, and I just want to be very clear that these are private agreements with landowners following an ordinance. We're not taking anything from anybody. I saw eminent domain pop up on Facebook. None of that's completely incorrect. We're a private company. We're not even a regulated utility. We're a developer. So we don't have eminent domain in Indiana.
I understand now.
No. Sorry. Thank you, though. You did a good job. Thank you.
This is a tough crowd to play for here. Okay, we have a family farm in Malden.
Ma'am, your name and where you're from, please.
Barbara Patterson, and I'm from North Judson, and I'm also speaking on behalf of my son, who is part of the family farm, and he's Valparaiso.
Okay.
He didn't want to speak, nor did I, but here we are. Okay. Don't yell at me in the back row, okay? I'm here tonight to represent my family, as our farm is included in the proposed solar project. We have been part of the Malden and Greater Porter County farm community and economy for 59 years, spanning 4 generations. We buy all our fertilizer and chemicals from Jeff down at Alliance. Our farm equipment and parts come from Bain Welker and LaCrosse. Prior to that, for decades, from Harold and H&P and Belleville. Over 59 years, we paid an estimated $650,000 in real estate and personal property taxes to Porter County, including a majority of that to the Morgan Township school system. My point is, we are and we will continue to have a long-term commitment to Malden and its broader community. Why would we commit our family's farm to this solar project? Farming is more than just providing a charming pastoral scene. It's a business. And like all business, it must innovate and adapt. When I was a teenager, my father grew popcorn for Orville Redenbacher. Those contracts were all canceled after a few years in this area. No more. We grew spearmint and peppermint, but China reduced demand for Midwest oil, so contracts for those crops also dwindled. We have a mint distill that's abandoned right on the farm. The corn and beans that we grow today have a stable demand, but smaller and mid-sized farms face the current burden of extremely high input costs, doubled interest rates, $4.50 diesel fuel, $1,000 a ton fertilizer. Many people here are familiar with that. I could keep going on. And now the beginning cycle of lower commodity prices and diminishing profits. So, like all businesses, farmers must diversify to maintain their financial security and provide incentive for the future generations of this farm to keep farming. This solar project offers us the opportunity to diversify while still farming in Mulligan Town. To give you exact details, the exterior perimeter of our farm will look...
Time's up. Thank you.
Joe Jarmucky and Doug Drumbo.
Good evening. My name is Connie Heflin. I'm from Morgan Township. We moved here in 1996, and both of our families were from Kentucky. And we wanted the area to look like Kentucky, so we moved to Morgan. And we've loved it here. We want it to stay farmland. We do not want these panels to come in. I live right down the road here. And if one farm does this or a few farms, then who's to say out my back window up here it won't come here? Or the next thing, windmills. We don't want this here. The glass panels. I don't know if you get them from China or where you get them from.
Malaysia.
Well, I know the government, our government, is trying to get where we can go green and make the panels here. We are not at that point yet. I don't believe the money should go to a foreign country. We have to start looking out for us in the state of Indiana and the I wish you guys would please rethink this, because this isn't what I came here for, to look out the window and see the panels. We went down to Wheatville. We went up to Michigan where we have a panel. You say, oh, it's safe for the water and the land. You say you can't hear it? That's a lie. I got out. It sounds like a semi-truck's tires running down the highway. It's a loud humming sound.
Hi, my name is what?
I apologize.
Hi, my name is Cal Romaneski. I've actually lived here in Morgan Township, right down the street, for 23 years now. I'm from Washington State, originally. I've seen a lot of this stuff go on there. As a matter of fact, we got a little cabin down in Buffalo, Indiana, and there's still trucks coming from Illinois into the landfill down there. And they're dumping stuff from Illinois into our landfill, in the Liberty landfill in Buffalo. And I made a big stink about this. I'm a scuba diver too, by the way. So I know what happens when that happens. And how many people are for this here? How many people are for this? Raise your hand. You guys all going to get jobs with this company? I was just curious. Anyway, as far as the pollution goes, I don't trust this because Pratt over here, this Pratt company, I lived in Tacoma, Washington, and they had a company over there too, and it was a paper company. And that thing started stinking really bad after years of use. This doesn't smell too bad because it's brand new, but Pratt will start stinking in our area here because I know. I lived in Tacoma, the aroma of Tacoma, Washington. Okay? So you guys just remember that about the Pratt thing over here. It will happen. So I'm sorry, but I don't agree with this whole thing. You know, I don't. Are you going to build that Sunshine Center for us? You're going to build it, right? The whole thing? I mean, I work with those kids at that church over there, and I love those kids. I want to see those kids grow up safe and in a clean environment. Our environment here is already messed up. This is the worst state in the United States for cancer for dogs. People too. Yeah, people too. Cancer. Horrible.
So I can't trust this. I'm sorry. Anyway.
William Hill. William Hill.
Just a moment, Mr. Hill. Madam, if you wanted to answer that question previously, go ahead, real quickly. That's okay. You good? Okay.
William?
Hello, my name's William Hill, and I live across the street from the Porter Hospital, so I don't know what you want to call that.
Township.
Whatever. And I know that I was promised there would be no noise and stuff like that. Well, every night I'm disturbed by helicopters. But I know they're saving lives, so, my point is going to be about the pollution that's caused by your product. There is the pollution to mine and refine the aluminum, to mine and refine the silicone, to mine and refine, or to change from oil the plastics that you use, the copper, the sheathing for the copper, okay? And then there's also the idea of the pollution that's going to be thrown into this area from all the construction material. Now, this is my main concern. And also the fact, you talked about recycling and all that. And I do scrapping for a living, well, to support my income. So I know about, because I don't believe that you should throw a washing machine into the landfill. I believe doing it. If everybody did a little bit to help with the recycling paper, I don't care. This place would be better, beating the earth. So my main concern is, how are you going to recycle the silicone that has outlived its usefulness?
Right now, I'm planning to repurpose it.
I understand that. That's why I added that has outlived its usefulness.
Right now, you're talking about 20 years.
Okay, sir, you're avoiding the question.
No, sir.
You might as well say you're making soup. That's an answer too. Okay, I'm asking, how are you going to recycle the silicone that has outlived its 20-year usefulness, or 40-year, or 60-year usefulness? How are you going to recycle that material? How? Okay, I'm telling you, once it's through being repurposed and it's no longer useful to be repurposed, how are you going to recycle that? You don't know. Thank you.
And Jen Mize on deck. Steve Cadwell and Jen Mize on deck. Are you Joe and Doug?
I gave up Joe, or who? Take
Joe. Joe.
Yeah, my name's Joe Jarnicki. I live in Counts, and I spent a lot of my time right across the street here, where all these is at as a child. My mom would drop me off with my grandparents. She'd go to BU to college. But anyway, you got all these across the street, and a lot of rebuttal about that when it was going in, and I think probably about everybody here uses that store. But I got two questions. One for him. I understood you to say that a 20-year and then it returns back.
Yes, sir.
Why is it only 20 years?
We want to hedge and make sure that we can recycle and repurpose materials with time to reinvest them in another project and to decommission that safely and properly.
20 years goes fast. I'm going to be 70, but I won't be here. My other question is for the commissioners. Why? My other question is for the commissioners. Why do you not have an ordinance that allows windmills? They're a lot less disturbing. No. People don't know what you're talking about.
Take our property values.
But that's got to be worked out with the commissioners.
They've already got that plan.
You know what's going to happen with that? Just like Bethlehem Steel, when they came in, they get tax abatements for everything. I'm a farmer. I have to live on 120 acres. There ain't one person here that has to live on 120 acres. I know what taxes are. I pay over $34 an acre for taxes. But why cannot a windmill stuck in a corner of a property generate electricity? It's not going to hurt anything, and you still got acres to farm.
Joe, we're going to
answer your question regarding our county ordinances. Bob, would you please address that?
We've had a windmill ordinance since 2010. Because there was a company that came in and was looking at leasing property between Kelton and Cross.
I understand that. And you know why that went down?
They couldn't get the leases for the property, from what I understand.
That's right, because there were big farmers over there. Matter of fact, one of them said he'd rather take a bullet to his head. I was on that property line to have something like that. It would have been a blessing for 120 acres for extra income.
Yeah, and I spoke to the property manager, and he was packing up, and he told me he could not get the leases to do the project.
But if you would have had an ordinance, I have talked to the people down at Brookston, Chalmers, and they told me the first thing you got to do is talk to your commissioners and get it approved.
Thank you, Joe.
It's Deb Verheugen going to be speaking. Then we will have Brian Erickson and James Coulter on deck. And are you Jan? Okay.
Hi, I'm Jan Mines. I live in Valparaiso over by the high school. A lot of what I was going to say, a lot of people have already covered. I'm very much against this. I'm worried about what it's going to do to my property value as far as increasing my taxes. Like all these people moving from Illinois, they're bidding up the properties, and then the value of the property goes up, and then our taxes go up. And this probably is going to cause that as well. Also, what it's going to cost us for more money for electricity and natural gas, that's a concern as well. And also, I just heard not too long ago that the property in Wheatfield, that it's not up and running, it's been built and it's an eyesore, and they can't even get parts to come in to fix it. So that's another issue that I'll be worried about for this. And also, I heard that the heat will go down into the ground and can cause weather, like tornado kind of stuff. So, any of that going to be addressed?
So, yeah, to be clear, the project you're talking about that was stopped in Wheatfield wasn't ours. Ours is still in progress, just to distinguish from another developer. And second, as far as taxes, I think I heard you right. I just want to be clear, we're not seeking a tax base.
I don't know what you're seeking. I just want to know what's going to happen to our taxes. And I came out here because I wanted to bring my horses and live out here and enjoy life, not to have all this going on. So, will our taxes go up?
So, tax rates are set by elected authorities, and they can levy a tax rate that's controlled by the state against assessed values. When assessed values go up, typically rates have to go down. Okay? Now, what you're suggesting is, if the house next to me sells for more than I paid for it, will the assessor say the houses in all the neighborhoods need to go up? That's generally the way we assess property.
I know that. So, and then our taxes go up. So the answer is yes, correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Kendall, going once, going twice. Okay, we have Paula Brown and Emily Remster on deck. Is Brian Erickson going to speak? Brian Erickson? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners. James Coulter, I live in Valparaiso. A couple of questions come to my mind immediately. Sir, you said this is 1%, less than 1% of the arable farmland in Porter County?
Right, according to the USDA.
Do we have a firm handle on, is this just another 1%, or will this be the cap of a total of 1% for all of Porter County?
I can't speak to other developers, but I can speak for NextEra. This is the only project for Porter County we're seeking.
Okay, so this is just your company, this project is less than 1%.
Correct.
Do we have a countywide cap on the amount of acreage that we're turning over to electrical production as opposed to farmland? My concern here is it's 1% for this project, 2% for next year. And oh, by the way, all of this is subsidized by the taxpayers. Now, granted, there are some economic benefits to the generation of electricity. However, we live in Indiana, which is quite rich in natural gas, coal, everything we need to produce electricity. Right? And yet, we're shipping this stuff to foreign countries to produce their power instead of using it ourselves. As a former military officer, I used to do strategic planning. I don't really think this is a good idea to be shipping our most valuable resources to countries that don't really like us.
Thank you for your service.
That said, I'm also a capitalist. Okay? So my question would be, how much is this going to reduce my electric bill? I can't speak for everybody else here, but my NIPSCO bill this year is on pace for what can only be described as a record year. And I've already replaced 2 furnaces, 2 air conditioners, every window in the house, and it just keeps going up. Okay, now I realize that's not yours.
It's not us, yes.
It's not yours. But I see nowhere in this where it talks about lowering my taxes, lowering my energy bills. Hopefully we can get something done on that. And with that respect, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, sir. To clear something up, Matthew had stated that NextEra has under contract roughly 1,600 acres, correct?
Yes, sir.
Or do you plan on going to secure additional land in contract?
At this time?
I'm sorry.
Pardon me. There's only one remaining lease option right now for about 120 acres, but we probably wouldn't use all of that. There's about 6 acres we would use to flex. Like I said, we walked a property line with another landowner today to see a non-participating landowner to see how could we tidy up the project as much as possible, move it away from them. But 60 acres would be almost to the interior of the project, if you will. It's like a U shape, and it would be on the inside of that. So even though we would be adding that, it would actually reduce the footprint on any non-participating landowners. That would be the only addition.
Okay, can we have on deck Nelson Shun and Madeline Garcia? Hi, my name is Paula Brown. I live in Morgan Township. Just wanted to let everybody know, in case you were not aware, I thoroughly did my research before coming here today. NextEra has just merged with Jinko Solar Holdings, which is the largest solar company in the world, which is in China. With NextEra, they merged last year, according to the findings. They are supplying 7 million solar panels over approximately 4 years. NextEra has a consolidated revenue of $17.2 billion. What do we have? What do we have but solar panels that are erected, an eyesore? We no longer have a food source. Our natural habitat has been destroyed. So we're going to keep seeing this as long as these companies continue to be in bed with China. And at the end of the day, this is a situation where somebody's got to wake up, because they're already buying all the farmland in Montana and Wyoming to have buying farmland by military bases. And I know this is off the subject, but this is Valparaiso, Indiana. If they can do it over there, they can do it here too. And so we need to stop this. I am against this. There's no place for this. I have a girlfriend that lives down in Mingo, Indiana, and amongst all of these solar panels, for as long as they have been there is no beautification. It is an eyesore. And for the lady who said that she got out and heard the humming noise that sounded like an 18-wheeler going down the 8094, that is the case. So I am here in Malden, Indiana, sir, okay? As finely dressed as you are, there's no place for this. Emily Rester, last call. Emily Rester.
Sorry,
True about China?
Yeah, so she was talking about a procurement supplier who's since moved their operations to the countries that I previously listed. And then as far as the sound goes, we're going to be happy to submit a sound study and work with the ordinance to ensure that we're below a 60 decibel radius project boundary. Lock, stock, and barrel.
Could we have on deck? Could we have on deck Tyler Brock and Brad Stone?
My name is Nelson Schoon. I live in Washington Township. And I have just a few practical questions to ask. Matthew, the question is, it's going to be grass underneath these solar panels?
We're going to follow the seed mixes set out by the ordinance, yes, sir.
Okay, so it'll be grass, it'll be growing. How is that growth going to be managed?
It'll be through mowing.
Through mowing. Okay. Under the panels too?
Yes, sir. They're tracking panels, so they'll move.
Okay. Simple answer. We got called by Mammoth trying to figure out their grass management. And we're building a meat processing plant down in Mott, so they wanted us to process all their sheep, all 16,000. So I just wanted to know what your plans were. So you're going to mow it fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have Madeline Garcia speaking? Madeline Garcia? Okay, can we have on deck Bob Martin and Sherry Cunningham? Tyler?
My name's Tyler Brock. I live in Cowles, president of Cowles Town Council. Basically, I just have a few points, nothing formal written down or anything. But as I want to thank all of you for coming here. So thank you guys for doing this. Thank you for coming. Keep in mind where Mr. Johnson's sitting. That's important. Okay, he's at the table up there. So it's his job to represent the positive aspects of this project. So he's telling you the positive stuff. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of negatives that he's not telling you that you can research yourselves. So this is not an agricultural activity. Currently it needs to be, or it's approved on industrial land, utility, zone land, and agricultural. This isn't agricultural, guys. All right, and I don't think the changing of the zoning to allow this to occur on agricultural property is appropriate. Habitat loss is our number one threat to wildlife, and he mentions that they do some habitat improvement on their properties, ponds and other stuff like that, wetland restoration. Will that habitat be open to the public to use?
Well, it's on private land.
Okay. So, not open to the public.
It's on private land, sir.
Correct. Thank you. If this moves forward, where does it stop? It doesn't just stop when there's 1,600 acres. Okay, next thing you know, it's in Pleasant Township, it's in Washington Township, it's in your backyard. I don't want to see this stuff through Cowles. It doesn't look good. They say they do a lot of improvements to make it visually appealing. That may be the case. Will the next company do that? If you've driven through the Wheatfield area the last couple of years, it looks terrible down there. It's awful. All right? The habitat loss down there is mind-boggling. Sandhill cranes get hit by cars, geese, waterfowl, nowhere else to land. I want to make a point that you can't blame the landowner for finding this appealing. If these guys are offering them a deal that's really hard for them to refuse. So, money that they probably can't make in farming. So, I understand that. You can't blame the landowners, but they've got almost unlimited resources. This company in Stark County doing a solar project. Like I said, if this one goes through, this won't be the last here. I believe it's called Mammoth Solar. They have workers coming in from another area who are getting paid more than the local keep that in mind. So I just want to again thank you guys for the time, and I strongly encourage you guys to consider not rezoning any property to allow this type of activity. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Red Stone, Chesterton, Indiana. I am a Porter County Councilman. First, I'd like to say thank you to the commissioners for having this meeting. Thank you for NextEra for actually coming up and facing the fire. It takes guts. I do have a couple of questions. Do you have a grid agreement in place?
What's called a GIA, a Generator Interconnection Agreement. Yes, sir. Right now we're working with MISO. As stated earlier, MISO is region in Zone 6, and that's who controls the grid here.
So you do actually have a grid agreement in place, though?
We're in phase 2 right now, Brendan, I believe so. So there's multiple phases. This is a 595-day process. There's no delays, but there's always a delay.
So the answer is no.
The answer is yes. We have an agreement in place. We've deposited $5.5 million toward that so far. Yes, we do have an agreement so far.
I just have those one of my questions. My other one was, I was asking where the panels are manufactured. You already answered that. I'm going to pontificate on this a little bit because it makes me furious. You know, we're buying products from Vietnam, China, Cambodia, and I can't believe that the United States is going to spend billions of dollars on renewables, and we can't even manufacture the panels here in the United States.
Thank you.
So that's one thing it's infuriating to know that my son and my daughters, you know, all their jobs are getting shipped to China, they're getting shipped overseas for cheap labor, and what are we going to get stuck with? We're going to get stuck with solar panels. You know, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. Like I said, the landowners, God love them. It's a tough situation for anybody to be in, but it's to me, it's furious that these panels are made overseas and we can't manufacture them. If we're going to put them here, at least let's make them. That'd be a great start if you want to be.
We're totally behind that. Absolutely. We're an American company. We love to be able to purchase these here.
Why don't? Come on.
They're not making it. They're simply not
Make some here. It's not a good investment.
The only ones that are advancing, I would say, is cadmium tellurium, which according to everybody here on Facebook and everything else, those are the toxic materials you don't want.
You have no control over the ones made in foreign countries. None.
All right. We're on. Don't take your eyes off the target. Keep going, right?
I had another question. I know you're talking with the unions about using local labor. Are you willing to sign a PLA? So I know talks, like in my business, I run a business, and talk is talk, the walk's the walk. Are you willing to sign a PLA with the local?
We're working on that right now. Yes.
Are we? I mean, it should be very simple. PLA is very easy to sign. I mean, I'm in construction. I'm an iron worker. I own a company. You know, we have to do this all the time. It's not that hard. I mean, I'm just saying.
Understood. There's just more considerations as we have multiple projects in multiple states, and we want to be going across.
But this is in Indiana, Porter County, and at least if we're going to have it built here, because I don't have a say over it, we should have good paying jobs and people in our community. And that's why I was kind of insisting, like, you should be able to say yes or no if you can sign a project later.
Yes, we will be signing them.
Thank you for putting on the record. And I don't have enough time, I'm sure. But seeing that I am on the council, I'm the fiscal, and what you said you're not going to be asking for any tax breaks.
That's correct.
Zero. Okay. Tax abatements, tax breaks, tax.
The only thing you have is tax.
That's it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you get that on record. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we have Rich Bussey and Rich Harden.
Well, they're not up here. Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
Bob Martin, Washington Township, lifetime farmer. Is it true, Mr. Thompson already presented to us, I sit on the school board, East Porter County Schools. Is it true that God is making no more land, even though China and Southeast Asia are making thousands of solar panels? And I ask that question because in 1970 I was part of a land judging team that went to nationals, the 7th in a row for Washington Township. And we were taught to love the land, protect the land. My ag teacher, Elvin Smith, taught me that. My dad, Carl Martin, taught me that. I farm on 400 acres. Crop revenues are at all-time high. Okay, I make a very good living on 400 acres. When you subsidize a company like yourself at $50,000 an acre, it's easy to pay huge sums of money to farmers. I would ask you these questions. I asked the similar questions at the school board meeting. Indiana is the second cloudiest county in the state. LaPorte County was chosen as a place for the munitions dump in World War II because it was the cloudiest. I would ask you, what efficiency on a 100% cloudy day do those panels have? And why and how is it possible for sun to be harvested if the sun doesn't shine, which it seldom does in Porter County in the wintertime? I would also ask this question. We were taught that best productive use of land was to be determined by the quality of the soils. These soils would have ranked as class 1 soils when I soil judged. They're very highly productive. I'm not opposed to solar panels. On houses and on barns and in small amounts, they're very effective. I have 3 brothers-in-law that have systems that sell back to NIPSCO and other power companies. I would contend, and I'm opposed to this project, because first of all, you're in it to make money, but we're paying for it. We're paying $50,000 an acre, or whatever the actual dollar amount is. It's huge as a subsidy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to give that kind of money to people. And I would ask you one other question that I asked at the school board meeting. I did research, and panels are raised in other countries. They're raised so that livestock can go under, so that you can actually mow under them. I've been to Jasper County. Those solar farms are ugly. They have no weed control yet. I don't know if they're going to when they're done. But to say that this is aesthetically beautiful for the people that are going to live around it, or that you're going to do all these things, as somebody that learned about soils all of my adult life, I've been on the land. Okay, this is not the best use for Porter County productive farmland. We have a corn stalk as one of our symbols. Okay.
Can you put the mic down so people can?
Okay, I'm Sherry Cunningham. I'm a foreman, mom of 2 graduates. So we are in the county here in the area that this is proposed. I just have a couple questions about, is the only thing that's stopping this is rezoning? Are the contracts already signed, they're ready to go, or is there rezoning even needed?
We're not seeking rezoning.
We're not seeking, there will be no rezoning.
Ma'am, there is no contracts that we have signed.
So what are we doing here? Is this just informational, or are you listening to us to eventually vote one way or another?
Well, I'm going to speak for myself. Before you leave here tonight, I'm going to make sure that everybody in this room understands where I land on this subject matter, and for the residents to learn more, and even giving NextEra the opportunity to maybe say some things to some of our residents that they haven't had the opportunity to say. But no, we don't have any contracts at all.
So there's a lot of speculation. We haven't been given any information. It's been a lot of one-sided from NextEra. So of course it's going to be promoted positively. We have not had time to collaborate as a community. We had time with other proposed installations coming through the county, or Oregon Township, and we were successful. Although with this, it sounds like we really don't have anything. I'm just curious, what is the next step?
What you do.
Okay. We're here with the information. Then I'm usually a pretty quiet person, so this is new for me. So what is the next step after this presentation? When will you be voting or deciding, or what? And is there any recourse for the community?
Mr. Thompson will answer that question. If he doesn't want to.
They don't have to do a rezoning. No.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Because there was a lot of talk. That's why we just don't have information for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Commercial solar farms are allowed in agricultural and industrial zones.
Talking to Mike?
They are also allowed in rural residential area with the special exception approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals as well. In this particular case, they have to go through a development plan approval process, which goes in front of the Land Commission for that. There's a number of items and steps that they must meet to be able to get in front of the Plan Commission as far as that goes within the ordinance. And also, the stormwater has to be checked, a number of items. All right, and there are certain. Well, before we put them on the actual Plan Commission, I can't think of how many criteria that they actually have to meet, 10, 12, or something like that. If they don't meet any of those, we don't put them forward to the Plan Commission. All right, we have no applications currently in front of the county. No applications at all.
Is there a time frame?
Microphone.
Is there a time frame that this will be done in?
I have no idea.
We don't know. Okay. Just another question. Will they?
Madam, I'm sorry.
How close will this installation be to a residential home? Because I've heard there are a lot of residential homes populated through this proposal.
Thank you.
Thanks. And
Answer the question.
yes, ma'am.
How many feet?
So we're looking at exceeding the ordinance standards.
Talking to Mike?
Sorry, we're looking at exceeding ordinance standards. We don't want to be closer than at least 100 foot for the property line to our fence. Even in the fence, then we have another 20 feet after that. Now, having said that, there's been landowners that have reached out, and we've been happy to work with them to see how can we optimize this array away as much as possible. Are there other options, including screening or other maneuvers that we can utilize? So we haven't run from anybody. We've done 20 events in this county over the last year and a half. Social media, news media, there's been a number of different things that we've done to get the word out about this. And when folks have reached out and they want us to work with them, we've been happy to do so. I appreciate your question.
It's like 200 feet. How many feet?
It'd be a total about 200 feet from the property line to the panel.
Everyone go to Pulaski County Against Solar project.
Yeah,
You will see a lot of information.
I know what that side is saying that. I saw your post. But I can't speak for another developer.
I'm just telling everybody that's what they can do to find out more information of what is happening and how there's immense problems with this.
Thank you, Sharon.
We have on deck Brian Johnson and Jim Jackson, and Rick or Rich is up right now.
All right, so full disclosure, I work for electrical distributor, guys. NextEra is not one of my customers, but I do have familiarity with this sort of a project. I just quoted 8 of them out in the state of Illinois. So for the folks that are worried that our power is being generated here, going somewhere else, very, very unlikely. Those projects
Can we have your name, please, sir?
Oh, sorry, Rich Harden, I'm from Chesterton, born and raised. What else? I wrote down what people were looking at. As far as noise pollution, I've been on a couple of these sites personally. This isn't NextEra, a big company talking. This isn't anybody talking. This is just me, guy down the road. Some of them are incredibly loud. It really depends upon the materials that you use. Anything older than 10 years, if anybody's been around or done any research on the solar industry, you can see how far that technology has come in just that short amount of time. I can personally vouch for a site that I was on this calendar year that was very, very quiet. I was standing much closer than anybody's home would be.
Was it a NextEra site?
It was not. Like I said, they're not one of my customers. I don't walk in their job sites. I am not. Nope.
You were talking about the noise. The noise level you have right now is about 60 decibels. Is that what you want outside your houses?
Right, sir.
As far as recycling is concerned, about 90% of the products in every solar module is reusable for new solar modules as well. So as they go to recycle things, things going in landfills aren't a big concern from my experience and the people that I've talked to.
Where do they recycle them at? They're making them in China. Are we sending everything back to China to get them recycled?
As far as I know, no, they recycle domestically. As far as I know. Say again?
Sir, please. And I don't mean to be rude. This thing's going to get spinning out of control if somebody's up here answering 50 questions.
He's talking to the audience. He's not
Well,
asking
no,
you questions.
well, he's,
Trying to do both of all this.
I don't think that he's deliberately doing that. So it's just finish your statement so we can continue to move on. Thank you.
As far as U.S. manufacturing is concerned, I'm only familiar with a few local U.S. manufacturers. Worldwide, we are about 60% short of the demand. So the chances of anybody, NextEra or any of their competitors or anybody else being able to get anything domestically is very low. For that to catch up, it will take quite some time. I'll be available for anybody who wants to ask me questions. I don't work for NextEra. They're not a customer of mine. I have no deal with them. I don't know anything. I just like solar. I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of the things you find on the internet is put out there. Then the other thing that I want to bring up more from a personal standpoint, voting no to do this is telling a private landowner that they cannot use their property for what they want for the greater good. I've heard a lot of talk tonight about sending our land to China, sending things overseas, and the idealistic plan behind it, but are we going to be conservative Indiana and tell a private landowner they can't do what they want? Thank you.
My name is Rick Busser. I live in Morgan Township. I live on 150 between 250 South and 325 South. And I want to know, so are the panels coming right up to 150?
No, sir. It's going to be a buffer. There's setback that we have to abide by.
But 200 feet is, that's not much. We're talking about the noise, we're talking about the visual impact. The first map I thought was out there to explain where all this stuff was going was that it's like cut off about at 75 each. So you're way out in the fields. There's no houses around there. But where I live, there's a whole bunch of houses. That everybody's going to be able to see this stuff and hear it. So
again, for visualization, we'll put in vegetative screening and we'll abide by the county standards. For sound, we'll be happy to submit a sound study and work to ensure if there's sound barriers or other protections that we need. Not to mention we place our inverters at the central location of the site. We don't put them on the edge. It doesn't make sense. So I understand, and yes, sir, we're working with our engineering team to ensure that we can pull those in. One reason why we haven't submitted an application yet, we're trying to optimize this as much as possible. We also wanted to hear the concerns and see what other considerations we would need to make before we submitted the site plan.
Well, 3/4 of a mile away from 150. That sounds good.
Okay, I'm Deb. We have Deb Good and Andy Vasquez, and Adam Johnson, you're next.
Hi, I'm Adam Johnson. I live in Valparaiso. I'm a regulatory compliance engineer, and I work adjacent to the energy monitoring industry. I appreciate the tech details that were shared by NextEra. I would like to know if there was an audit to determine if solar panels were produced in accordance with international standards for environment. And I would also like to know if there's where I can find a detailed description of the project financial plan, including any grants or subsidies. You don't have to answer that now, but I would like to say, in my experience with the energy industry, there's a lot that the public doesn't understand. You should know that coal is radioactive. You should know that if you live near a coal power plant, you receive a greater dose of radiation than if you stand the same distance away from a nuclear power plant. Scrubbing that is done in this area will remove about up to 90% of that, as well as the other pollutants, but about 10% is going to go out into our air. And right now, in Lake and in Fort County, about 10% of our children are suffering from pediatric asthma and other respiratory illnesses. And there's no chance of working with the steel industry to reduce the amount of smokestacks because there's no solar panels going to that can make steel. But the energy industry has a solution that they're willing to listen. So my recommendation is anything you can do, commissioners, to reduce the number of smokestacks in this area will increase the health for our children. I have a 5-month-old son, 10% chance of pediatric asthma is too high. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Justin, Valparaiso resident. I'm actually originally going to read a couple of bullets from a letter by Jerry Eagle, who couldn't make it tonight. And I'll send you guys the entire document with all of his resources and everything as well. But I cannot do that in 3 minutes. So a couple of things I just wanted to point out is, as a publicly traded company, NextEra has been background key repeatedly to secure high ESG, which is an environmental social governance rating from holding companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street by getting on board with clean energy production. In addition, NextEra has contributed millions into campaign contributions and lobby efforts with the expectation of favorable regulatory and financial subsidies from the government. And this has been going on for a while. The cost of green energy is too high, especially among the average wage earner and those that are on a fixed income in Porter County. We've already experienced tremendous rise in utility rates from NIPSCO. Adding an increased cost from the Malden Solar Project is going to potentially jack up about another 20%. So that's not a tax directly from a government agency, but that's a payment that we're all going to have to pay as a result of this. When it comes to manufacturing, I hear where you're getting the panels from, but the cobalt used to make them. The cobalt generally comes from children that are 14 years old working in the Congo for $1 a day. They were wearing no protectional gear. They're working 12-hour days. And if you don't want to hear just from here, there's multiple resources. There's an interview with Sadiq Kara by Joe Rogan from December 22nd in 2022. And you can also read the book Cobalt Red. And if this doesn't change your mind on how these things are made, then I suggest you actually look internally, because there's something here, not here. I'm not done yet. Hold on. You can comment when I'm done. I only got 3 minutes. When you're looking at the energy, the amount of energy that gets concentrated in one place, no matter what form it's in, affects all water in the area. What are we made of? We're made of water. If you want to look more into that, Dr. Emoto's water experiment tells you exactly what happens. When there's different types of energy around water, and then it shows as it crystallizes, when the energy is positive and good, it crystallizes into beautiful shapes. When it's not, it crystallizes into very harsh, rigid things. And if our body's made up of this, and we're contaminating it by pumping all of this energy right there, those people might be getting a little extra money, but it's doing something really damaging to them, their ground, and even if it's county-approved grass that you're planting there, it's going to do damage to that too. Finally, I'm a math guy. 1 acre of solar produces about 1,000 kilowatt hours per year of energy. Indiana consumes 44.231 billion kilowatt hours. We would take 44 million acres, of which we only have 35 million in Indiana. It's not self-sufficient. Even if it was 10 times as efficient, we would use 1/9 of our state in solar to cover our energy cost.
We don't use any cobalt. And as far as emitting anything, we aren't burning anything. We're absorbing sunlight for our power source. Thank you.
Yeah, you're next. Just real quickly, I want you all to hear from your commissioners before you leave. We're going on 2 hours now for the. If you want to continue to, we only have 2 left. Well, we can do 2 more.
Okay, first of all, let me say thank you, Matthew, for that response on the cobalt, because I'm sitting here thinking, what does that last conversation have to do with anything that we're talking about here today? Which brings me, first of all, Jeff Good, Morgan Township, I am one of the landowners that has leased their ground. And that makes me the enemy of probably 3/4 of you in the room. And I understand that, and that's the reason my husband is not here tonight. That's why many people are not here tonight. Okay, because they don't want to be treated the way you're acting. And this is not Porter County. This is not how we act in Porter County, and this is not how we act in Porter County. I'm sorry, but that's my stand. So with that said, if you follow the Malden Solar Facebook page, There's a lot of misinformation that has been on there. And I put myself out there last week, and I tried to bring the information forward that Mr. Johnson and his team has put out there on his Facebook page for months. There was an open house in this very room last August. It was on the billboard. It was advertised. There were certified letters that went out. And you all didn't show up. And the information that everybody keeps asking about and is asking about here tonight, they have answered all these questions over and over and over. And I keep going in and pulling the best information forward so that everybody can see it. I have not looked at that page since Thursday when I got attacked personally. Okay? So I am a landowner. I don't want to be, I feel as if y'all think we're stupid, that we didn't do our due diligence, and we did do our due diligence. We are one of the ones, and I know that many others, took over 2 years to come to an agreement with NextEra. We didn't come to it easily. This is not an easy decision. Okay? So, we're not stupid. We did our due diligence. This man and his company, everything that we have requested, they have met us the last 2 years. Anything that I have requested for our community, I'm a Rotarian and I'm the youth service chair for all the schools, 16 high schools. Anything that I have asked of this company to come forward and finance, they have financed. They have taken care of it. Okay. Oh no, I didn't get caught. No, our children, and that's another question I have. And Ms. Bob Martin, you're a good friend of mine, but I have to ask, you are the President Richard, you've been on the Shreveport County School Board for years. Our due diligence, what does this mean? I have had children go through Morgan. I am a Tufts graduate. My children went through Morgan Township. My grandchildren. I am tired of hearing we do not have money to do that. I am tired of it. We don't have the money for our school system. And the money that we have right now, that we can bring in, and our project can bring in, is going to put money into our school system. That's why we did it.
Okay.
Don't be rude.
Please, I know that emotions can run high, and we just ask that everybody please be respectful so that we can listen to our next speaker and any of the commissioners that wish to speak.
My name is Andy Buskis. I live in Morgan Township. And I'm not one of the 22% who farms corn. I actually have a very, very tiny farm, 20 acres, and I do organic produce. So my concern is how the water runs through our system and how much that will be affected by your operation. And the other thing that I had in my mind was the sound. You have an operation running now that is the size of this one.
We're building Calvary Solar in White County that'll be the exact same size and roughly the same footprint. Brendan, when do you think we'll first have inverters going?
Calvary?
Yes.
Calvary will plan on having inverters hopefully by the end of 2020.
Okay, so you do not have one presently running?
To match this footprint? No, sir.
Okay, see, my concern is this. Taking something from a match, I only have to miss buddy, and I appreciate you, trust me, I appreciate everybody's up here doing it. And we got to give them that, some type of respect for that, folks, because they are right. We are Porter County, and we should be able to do better, okay? Now, you should have something, so I'm pretty sure, something that's similar in this size, that you can do a decibel study?
Yes.
Okay. Has that been done, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just not in Indiana, but across the U.S., we've built 4 sites that are this size.
What was the decibel level, sir?
So, right at 60 decibels.
Okay. How many of you in here are familiar with 60 decibels? What it sounds like? How about up here in the panel? No clue. Sir, do you know what it sounds like?
Yes.
Could you make it sound, please?
I can't.
You can. You get
I'm not
talk.
gonna
Okay, talk as loud as you can at 60 decibels.
So, from a human aspect, I can't speak that loud.
Okay, you can't speak that loud.
If you talk on the mic right there,
So-
you get 60 decibels.
If I were talking to you with this microphone and I shouted, would I be close?
Again, I'm not measuring. I can't.
You're not measuring. Okay, no problem. I understand that. Okay. And a lot of your questions, quite actually, the questions I had were answered by you and relatively well.
I'm going to say something that's not popular, but Deadwood has the right, so does everybody else who is into this thing. It's their farmland, guys. Okay? If you don't want them to do it, maybe make them an offer for their land. You know? I mean, we're just coming to Porter County whether we like it or not. I moved here 30 years ago. I've done everything from being poultry superintendent to coaching my grandkids at summer softball leagues, okay, and in between. It's coming. We got to do something, and we got to be smart about it. Are they telling us what they can exactly do? I don't know, sir. I'm neither for you nor against you. I want more information before I pick a side here. And I pray very hard before I open my mouth. And I think we should all do that. Praise God before we open your mouth, before we let stupidity out. Okay? It's very important that we keep the eye of the prize, which is how can we make our community better while going forward with the growth that's coming. Because you know what's coming, guys. This is one of the subdivisions already. Time's up. Thank you all.
I'm not on your list, so but I like to talk. My name is Mary Bruce. I live in Morgan Township. And you guys didn't answer the question on the countywide gap of how much land you plan on it just in the next 30 years going to be using for solar panels. Is it just going to be this, or is it going to keep growing and growing and growing? Just like Indiana, is it going to be just Porter County, or is it going to keep growing and growing? How much is this going to let us take over and control the farmland? And like all these are good points, but that's why I'd like to know, do you guys have a cap on it?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay. Can we get a cap on it anytime soon? So it doesn't get out of hand and out of control?
Well, we have an ordinance, and my understanding is that we're going to be discussing, the board is going to discuss about amending certain portions of it. But, my fear is what your fear is.
Okay.
Once it's in, it's.
I have another fear. Our local, little tiny Morgan Township volunteer fire department, when these lithium batteries have issues, and you decide to put water on them, they're going to blow. Just like the cell phone battery in your pocket. So, we plan on giving them money, we plan on training them, we plan on, how are we going to, when 2,000 acres go up in smoke, how are we going to control this? How are we going to control it from spreading to our neighbors and other lands? I mean, this is a safety issue. I mean, how do we prevent it from being something like Ohio? You know? Can you tell me, what are you guys going to do for that?
Focus on lithium batteries. Again, to be clear, there's no battery plan for the site. And even if there was, absolutely, we would provide funding and training for the fire department to ensure they know exactly what to do. We would coordinate that with what we call the FPDC, the Florida Power Diagnostic Center, where we monitor all of our assets in real time. So if something happened, we would be able to work with them to dispatch appropriately and safely, and also power the asset down, which I think in your Facebook post would solve the problem. Now, the other thing you had brought up, I mean, these are all things that we've addressed time and again, and we're happy to work with.
Well, like I said, you didn't get it out to the public obviously good enough last time or the previous times. If you only have a couple people show up, you have over hundreds of people show up now. It's because somebody had to say something. So, obviously you guys are not doing your due diligence for everybody else in the community.
Again, we work with news media. We've spoken at a number of different community organizations. We sent certified mail. If somebody didn't get it, I apologize, but that's something we weren't even required to do, and we did that.
So it's already smoke and mirrors. You're already selling. Like
Just found out
you're just,
3 hours ago.
Yeah, you're walking in here and this has been going on for years. No, this is not the first. This is the first time we've ordered this. So there's something that's not being communicated, and no wonder because you guys are probably trying to under the table and using the money. It's all about money. Yeah.
Thank you.
Martin?
No, sir, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. Sure. Come on. State your name and where you live, please.
My name is Mark Maxwell. Live in Morgan Township. I have put a lease agreement with NextEra. I'm a farmer, landowner. My family been here my whole life. Actually, I'm the 5th generation. Goes back to 1836. A guy named John Maxwell moved here from Ireland. And I put a lot of thought into this. I've read a lot of things. I'm not a Facebook. I don't even have Facebook. My wife does, and I'm been forceful. I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to get it short. In my decision, I have tried to respect the rural community, the agricultural community, and done what's best. There is not a map here, but on the property I have on 250 South, there's a 30-acre buffer that doesn't go to the road. Rick and John, I thought you were going to say something, but I guess you decided not to.
Yeah, come on, Mark.
What are you going to say, John?
I'm going to say that if anybody doesn't know, I'm the one that put something on Facebook. It's my property. I was originally approached by Mark telling me it was going to be right on my property line. He got me in touch with Matthew. He stopped over today, him and Mark. They said they were going to take it back from the front of the road to my property line, which is about 480 feet from the road to back. And from the back of my property line, they're going to take it back another 183 feet. That's where they're going to start the fence, and then that's where the panels are going to go.
Mark Patterson got cut off. Same deal, Mark. You still in here? Is there a border? No, is there or not? I only got 3 minutes. I'm going to.
You're doing good. Keep talking.
Okay, this opportunity to diversify while farming. How are we?
Is there a border, Barb? I'm throwing you. I got 3 minutes. I'm not done talking.
Oh, okay.
Is there a border?
Okay, so anyway, the exact details are the exterior perimeter of our farm along 150 East, going along 425 and 450 South will still have crops, woodland, and a home site, much as they appear today. The fenced-in solar area will be on the farm's interior, fenced in with bushes and trees and dedicated ground underneath and native grass. The visual impact will be minimal, if any, from the roadways. The exact location of this solar equipment is determined by 2 factors. The existing decades-old transmission lines. No woods are going to get cut down for new lines. They are in Stark County. None of that. These run interior to our farm, making use of existing infrastructure that ties into the project. Second, the only reason we agreed to this project is our family wanted to maintain land to farm. We're going to farm 35% of this farm yet. That will cut off any visibility of the road. We excluded everything on 150 East so that nobody across the road would have any exposure whatsoever. And given the fact that Michigan City Coal Plant is closing, the potential phase out of the Schaefer plant in Wheatfield, we have to have electric. I don't want it coming from China. I don't like going to the Dollar General, but who hasn't done that? We are dealing with a company that I'm 71 years old. I don't deal with people I don't like. I deal with Jed because he's honest. I deal with Harold Hardesty because he's honest. I have one more thing. Unlike housing developments and landfills, we can approach for $1 million worth of landfill. We don't have anything to do with that. We want the farm ground restored to its original and former use. 20 years from now, if energy technology makes this obsolete, they will remove the equipment, they'll restore it to the original landscape. That's the purpose of the bond. We have this all covered. We're not stupid. I know Deb reiterated that. But this farm ground will be renewed in fertility, not corn after corn after corn, depleting the soil, making it less worthy. The dormancy does what this will help do. Okay? The last thing is, let me conclude by saying, I don't like this. While I hold you and your community in the utmost respect, this farmland is ultimately our private property, and unduly contesting one's right to use your private property as you see fit threatens everybody's property rights, an institution of individual liberty fundamental to this country and its sanctuary of human rights. And intrinsic to these property rights is our prerogative as a family to make well-vetted, conscientious...
Barb, your 3 minutes is up.
And
I want to talk. I asked you to do it. I said to get to the point. The assessed value of agricultural ground right now is $1,250 an acre. It's going to go up to $1,500 an acre because of land values. It's going to be assessed at $13,000 an acre at a higher rate. Bob? Came up here today to preach. Do you need money in the school? 61% of it goes to the school.
Mr. Maxwell, we are way past.
I know that. Thank you. Michael, this is for the corn and bean farmers.
Go ahead. When
we talk about agriculture.
This is our livelihood.
So is mine.
Can I speak? Can I speak? Has that interrupted? So do we know where the majority of the corn in America goes?
Overseas.
Ethanol.
The East Coast.
Who said ethanol?
I did.
Overseas, 11% of it gets exported. Most of it goes to Mexico. 40% of it goes to ethanol. It's not to feed. It's not for protein. It's for energy. Now, I'm going to do some math. I don't know where you got your numbers. I'm going to tell you where finance.
How much money do you need, Mark?
What?
How much money do you need?
Okay. 1 acre produces enough corn and ethanol to get a car at 25 miles per gallon, 9,691 miles a year. Acre of solar panels. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, and I haven't talked to you on this. Produces 198,870 kilowatt hours. An EV car, which we don't have EV cars, I don't, they're not in the area, but they are. Every place where you look, TV, they're there. 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour. You know how many miles you're going to get? 710,250 miles from that same acre of corn. Now, you got to remember, I want ethanol. I sell corn. I want it. But we talk about farmland and where it's going to go. I'm not worried about input prices. I'm worried about commodity prices. This is a diversification for my family. It's a small diversification. I didn't sell out. I didn't take the highest bid. I promise you I didn't take the highest bid. And if you want to see me sell out, I will give this community real cause. So listen. If you don't think I have had opportunities much more lucrative,
That's a threat.
it is not a
You
threat.
can threaten this entire
Sorry,
I
I'm not yet.
You said it. I'll show you.
Okay.
That's a threat. I don't care. That's a threat.
How much subsidy the federal government is giving this company? I would like to know that.
I can't provide a calculation on that, man. It's going to be on which projects go COD and which ones do not.
But you do get federal subsidy.
Every single form of energy is subsidized by the federal government.
Yes, and it's quite a bit according to my information. And what I wanted to point out to all the farmers and everybody is that our federal government is in debt. And to be able to say that they should fund something that is an entrepreneur thing, they should be letting capitalism fund this, not the federal government. That's where I have the problem. And it's taxes for us. We're paying the subsidies. I just wanted to say that.
We were pursuing this project for recent legislation. So that wasn't our motivation.
That's not my point. My point is taxes are paid.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I think we do have two questions that have not been answered, and if they have, then I missed them. My name is Jenny. I'm from Couts. And forgive me for the perhaps ignorance of my questions written down. The first one is, will the migration of the sandhill cranes, Canadian geese, and other birds be altered due to the glares from the panels? If that question was answered, I missed that.
Let's go to Tyler.
That's a good question.
Okay, next question. Do the panels absorb heat, and how does this change our temperatures, like with the air, with storms causing an influence, or heat dome, or anything in those regards?
Microphone.
As far as heat absorption, we're looking at absorbing sunlight. So this wouldn't be any different than cars parked in the parking lot as far as the heat right at the panel. Kurt?
With asphalt, like cars in a parking lot, asphalt, heat comes from that.
They're black. So Kurt Hansen with DCT. Kurt, can you answer about the single cranes in a better way than I can?
While we can't talk specifically about exactly where every sandhill crane will land or move, what I can tell you is every single one of the plant species that is requested as part of the county's ordinance to plant native and perennial species of plants produces some major benefits to all of your native plant, animal, surrounding species, microbes in the soil, etc. A lot of them both feeding the sandhill crane directly or feeding the prey of the sandhill crane, thus actually expanding the amount of habitat that the sandhill crane or Canada geese or whatever other bird that you might be talking about, songbird, migratory bird, etc. in the area.
How does this affect deer and sandhill cranes?
Excuse me, Tyler. If you were answering it, I missed it again. But with the, is there a glare that's gonna like shine up for these birds in migration? This is their flight pattern over here.
Understood. And,
Mike's not working.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Yes. So we run a number of studies. As I showed earlier, bird bat habitat assessments are part of this project. We work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to ensure that whatever species is in this area is not going to be harmed. And like I said, we also create natural features in every site plan to ensure whatever animal it is, that we're going to be able to be in a suitable way that's harmonious with the environment. So I also said at the beginning, if you missed it, no big deal. We're the number one renewable energy developer in the world. We have other sites as well. Yeah, it's new, but we're number one in renewables. And you wouldn't maintain that position if you have a bad environmental record. It's important to us not only to do the right thing, but ensure that wildlife has a place within the site as needed. Yes, ma'am.
So the answer then is the glares from the solar panels do not affect the birds. Is that the answer?
There's two other studies that we do, and I'll be happy to submit to the council. One's called the glint and glare analysis. Exactly what you're talking about. Not a problem to submit that. Happy to commit to doing that with our application as well. The other is a sound study, which seems to be one of the biggest issues that has come up tonight. And I'm more than happy to ensure that we can provide a sound study at a proper decibel rating and also implement sound barriers should we need to. Thank you.
I'm a landowner as well. I have a really quick comment because I kind of want to bring peace to the room. I want everybody to understand from a landowner standpoint. Yes, this is a way to financially diversify our farms, but we are 4 or 5 plus generation farms, and farmland means the world to us. My farmland means my grandfather, his blood, sweat, and tears, and the drainage that he created at the Malden Farm means a lot to us. And so in our conversations, not just with NextEra, with numerous other companies that approached us, we chose NextEra because they were going to provide the qualities that we wanted in order for this community to have positive impact. That was very important to us. Is it going to satisfy everyone? No, nothing ever does. But we did not want to ruin anything for anyone. So barriers and views, and we are going to continue to farm at least 30 to 35% of our farm. And it is healthy to rest the land. It really is. This could become absolutely the best farmland in 30 years. I don't ever want to get rid of the farm. I want to continue in generations because I still believe in a family farm. But it's getting really hard to continue that for a lot of different reasons. And we didn't want to take the entire farm and affect everybody all the way up to the very thing. Borders were very important to us. Any kind of impact on you folks is important to us. And we do want to hear these things because if it is going to be something that, you know, if there's factors that we were not able to think of or NextEra was not able to think of, but you can, we want to hear these things. I think a lot of the problems that we have right now is where a lot of problems come from. Communication and the lack of communication. And obviously that's something that we need to work on both sides. Unfortunately, those who use social media to communicate oftentimes that's misinformation, and I don't want to knock anybody. You know, energy independence is a way for us to get away from products that are made in China. I can get a lot of facts from this phone that's made in China. So we do want to become a free country away from dependency from these other countries, and energy independence is one of those ways. And so really truly our heart is with the county and our contribution, and I promise you we mean no harm, and it's not about greed, because we were offered a lot more money by other companies that would have not put any of these people into consideration except us. So please understand that, you know, there is a lot of consideration toward you folks that went into this decision process as we were beginning the process. Thank you.
Yes, ladies. Yep. My name is Joe Specker. I'm from Morgan Township. Just let you know, I'm personally against this, but I gotta say, we gotta stop vilifying these farmers who sold part of their land, or not sold. I don't want this to happen, but they're good people. And I think, let's not turn this into something ugly. Vote the way you want, press the way you want, but let's leave this. These are good people who made decisions, and they're trying to keep it off the roads. And I gotta appreciate that. Because like the one gentleman said, they could have sold the whole thing, or released the whole thing. So while I hope this doesn't go through, I appreciate what they've done to minimize it for the rest of us. That's all I'm just saying.
There's never just one more, let's be honest.
I do have two questions, but I'll ask one of him personally. But one I'd like to ask, I'm a 20-year or more resident of Porter County. Glenn Johnson. I live on Smoke Road. I've been there a year. I love it. Love Morgan Township. Love Washington Township, that's where I moved from. My only question is, there's been a lot of great information tonight. This is a more of a moderate term consideration. Will there be any kind of planning about how construction traffic is handled? Because I don't think anyone here can argue that Smoke Road is a thoroughfare. And I live by Smoke and Division, and those two hills, it's all residential for about 2 miles coming out of the city. How much of that traffic will be on Smoke Road? I'm thinking a lot of the bigger construction traffic will be able to come in from the south, but there's going to be lots of residual traffic of subcontractors and stuff, I would think. So.
Yes, sir. We'll absolutely work with the highway superintendent to ensure that there's a plan in place to communicate with the residents.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So when all is said and done, and the money that you're saying is going back into Porter County and Morgan Township and everything, how much are you going to make? I'm just curious. I don't, the farmers, that's great. That's their property. I want to know, what difference does it make? It's a question. I'm asking a question. That's it.
Look at your name.
Sharon. I live right down the road. Morgan
Thank you, Sharon. Matt, you want to answer that?
Yeah,
The project is not contracted.
Excuse me?
The project is not contracted. We don't have a buyer. I'm going to tell you this.
What's your estimated figure?
As I said earlier, there's two ways that we provide our purchase agreement. We like mortgage. For 20 years, we operate retain electric projects to provide a utility. They go do a gas cruiser, whomever it might be, a power. The others we build transfer. We build it and we transfer ownership of that to the utility. But we we operate and maintain. That's the next area, that's unique to us, and unique to other developers. But again, just to be abundantly clear, that's how we manage our rights. All of those are plugged into FPDC, regardless of contractual. You don't leave? No, sir. You manage the life of you know every asset at all times.
The reason I ask that question is because I'm just wondering how much could go back into Morgan Township and you like get so rich. I mean, everybody's talking about the schools and how much could go to them, and you guys just keep getting richer and richer. And that's fine. Sell your property or lease your property. I'm not saying anything about the people that are doing this. I'm asking you what.
That's kind of like asking Publix how much money they make, right? Like, we're just employees of NextEra, just like
And who may you
employees
be?
I'm sorry, I'm Tammy Westgate,
Thank you.
manager for NextEra.
Thank you.
And you don't live here, do you?
I do not live here.
There you go.
But
That's good. You asked the question next year. You know what? I hope that you are happy with your decision, and that would make me happy for you. So
Thank you both.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
You asked me here.
Can we come somewhere else? Can we put them on the school? Good question. We're not even, we are anywhere near making decisions with any solar panel anywhere in this county.
Where's your opinion?
Just, that is not my opinion.
No, what is your opinion?
Hey, I'm getting to it.
He's been sitting here waiting to.
Honestly, I want you to all to, I've written my opinion over the last week. It's been difficult. You know, I did my homework on NextEra as well as everybody else. I'm a 7th generation resident of Porter County. I'll be honest with you, I don't like to see big change. I really don't. In all my years of public service, I haven't, the big change that I've seen occur in this county over the years has not really been on the negative side, or on the positive side, to be quite honest with you. But I understand personal property rights. I'm a strong proponent of personal property rights. But I don't think that's what we're talking about as far as my definition as it applies to my job as president of the Board of Commissioners. This is an issue of our standing planning ordinances. As to whether or not this thing fits in to ordinances that we have played over the years have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money to write and enforce. So I'm going to read what I have written. And it is not written to upset anyone. I'm speaking from my heart. See, in this thing, all right. Disguising an industrial operation for an architectural or an agricultural operation undermines nearly every common sense approach to land planning that has occurred in our county for decades. My objection for this project is not based on a refusal to acknowledge renewable energy, nor is it based on a refusal to acknowledge personal property rights. It is based on the fact that there is a request before my elected county office that is seeking my support to allow private investors to come into this county and build an industrial solar plant on thousands of acres of farmland located in the middle of an established community. I believe that our residents have the right to live with the reasonable expectation that we as a county government are not going to support something so clearly in direct conflict with our own county's land use planning regulations. These regulations were written to establish policies and practices for the use of land to manage and develop based on the general welfare of our residents. As your county commissioner, I intend to support our land use policies that your tax dollars paid for to have written as well as enforced. Thank you. If any of the other two commissioners would like to make a statement.
brand new, and I've only been a commissioner for almost 2 months. But I do have some concerns about this. One of the first concerns is when you talk about sun being free, it's really only free to the solar panel. It's not free to anybody else. And we're already seeing that NIPSCO has requested a rate increase of almost 18% for those of us in Porter County for the infrastructure improvements in 2 other counties having to do with wind and solar. And so my concern is once this has been established, what is that going to do to our rates and the rates of other subscribers in other counties as well? The other thing I know, because I had a 16-year background in IT, is that the instant that technology is installed, it's already obsolete. And so at some point, it's not even going to be economical to use that technology anymore. And then the ratepayers are going to be asked to invest yet once again into new technology. So that's part of my concern. We also have a solar ordinance, and I understand that the reason that we have a solar ordinance is because there was a threat of legislation in downstate Indiana that they were going to actually force solar and wind compliance and take that out of our control. That actually did not pass, but because that threat was real, we decided to be preemptive and to come up with a solar ordinance at that time. That failed, it just went down in flames, it was completely thrown out, but we were left with a solar ordinance. I also want to mention about property rights. And under normal circumstances, if we did not have that ordinance, it would be very difficult for one of those landowners to come up to the commissioners and ask for a zoning change from agricultural. And I just want to show you a couple of things that I found, and I don't know how well you can see this. We did a master plan in Porter County about 20 years ago, and this shows the future land use plan. And if you can see in the area in South County, it was, for the most part, agricultural. If you can just flip over, Melanie, to the next. So page 2 is a description of rural agricultural, and so is page 3. But what I want to do is go to page 4 and just read you some highlights from this. It says, it is the intent of the county to maintain a rural character for this development area. Now back then they were concerned about subdivisions coming in. And I don't think anybody even envisioned solar back when this master plan was done. It says the Plan Commission should carefully consider the productivity of the land being proposed for subdivision development, placing a preference on developing less productive agricultural land. The potential for impacting surrounding agricultural uses or the potential impacts of surrounding agricultural uses on the proposed development should also be a prime consideration. If you would switch over to page 5, Melanie, these are some definitions from the Porter County Unified Development Ordinance book. Agricultural, I know you can't read this, industry light, and it says see manufacturing light, industry heavy, see manufacturing heavy. And now, Melanie, if you could switch to the next page where it actually describes agriculture. I don't know if you can read this. The use of land for agriculture purposes, including farming, dairying, pasturage, apiculture, agriculture, horticulture, floriculture, viticulture, and animal and poultry husbandry, and the necessary accessory uses for packing, trading, or storing the produce, provided, however, that the operation of any accessory uses shall be secondary to that of the normal agricultural activities. Agriculture does not include feedlots, stockyards, or the commercial feeding of garbage or offal to swine or other animals. And then if you switch to the next page, manufacturing heavy and manufacturing light, the only real zoning that solar panels actually fit into is manufacturing heavy. It doesn't even fit into manufacturing light. If you take a look at the next page, it says a land use matrix, and you go through, and I know you can't read this, but you read down the A1, and you look at the uses that are approved within A1, they are extraordinarily limited. There's very little that is allowed in our development plan that is allowed within the A1 zoning category. So my concerns right now is that because of an ordinance that was pretty much forced on us in the county, that we now don't really have a lot of options, and that this just seems like, and the other thing too, for them to call it a solar farm, to make it sound like it fits into agriculture, that is, in my opinion, a huge misnomer. And the one last page I'd like you to see is on page 12, Melanie. I heard NextEra give a presentation at Rotary, I'm in Rotary, and they did mention that they had 2,200 acres under contract. Tonight he corrected that to 1,600. But I just did an overlay of 2,200 acres on the city of House. And you can see what a large area that actually is, 2,200 acres. So this really is not an insignificant amount of land that we're talking about. One of the deficiencies, I believe, in the ordinance, and I'm hoping that we can correct it, is that we did not have any limits in that ordinance whatsoever in terms of sound limits or the amount of acreage that could actually be considered in a solar project. So these are just some concerns as a brand new commissioner that I wanted to bring to the other commissioners this evening. Thank you so much. I live right over on Smoke Road, 1 mile length of division.
Commissioner Mullane.
I did not come tonight with a pre-made opinion because I wanted to hear what everybody had to say. I did have some ideas in my head. I took a lot of notes tonight. There's a lot to consider on both sides, honestly. My concerns are this place. Morgan Township is grown like gangbusters residentially. It's very close to Valpo. I'm not sure this is the best place for this. However, I also think property owners are really important. We have responsible property owners, and for us to have an ordinance, no matter how we change on it, and they operated under this ordinance and sign a lease, and then for us to possibility away, I'm not sure that's the right thing to do there. So I'm still kind of on the fence, but I really don't like this place. I do think it's too close to where we want Rochester Road to occur. But I don't want to shut it down before it's done. I think there are other places that it would work great. So that's where I am right now. Where do you live? I live in West. And I can see the wires from my house. I'm sure that I will get a nice view of those.
Well, as I touched on earlier, this is a long way for me to decide. There's a lot yet that we need to know. I'm speaking for myself. I think even Commissioner Blaney made something that made a lot of sense. That there are other places where this would be much better fitting than the entire, being the entire countryside, the size of 2,200 or 1,600 acres, whatever it ends up being, of an established community and changing it. I think I heard you. I think I heard you loud and clear, at least the majority of it. And I work for you, so. have a safe drive home.
Okay.
Thank you.